Right guys, welcome back to the channel. So today I've had a morning full of lessons, but I've had a great question come from a subscriber. A little bit confused on some components that create the downswing. Seen some fantastic stuff online by some brilliant instructors talking about some instructors want you to leave your hands up, some instructors want you to pull down on the handle, some people want you to keep your back to the target. What is my belief system on that? So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to create a small video that gives you a little bit of an alliance to what I believe to be the primary forces in the simplest way possible to describe the downswing. Now this isn't an instructional video, this is just to hopefully help you guys fully understand some of the principles that need to be in play for you to create the downswing that you want. Now, relevant to those ideas, this is going to be a generic conversation, so whatever you're working on, some of these principles might have to feel different. You might have to feel different things to put the sweet spot back on the golf ball. But if we're just talking about a general alliance, a baseline of some of the principles that need to be in play relative to forces, what starts it, what creates it, this video should help. Right, let's go and have a look. Right, to do this conversation, we are outside at the hill, Reigate, Surrey, UK, and all I've done is I've popped a gym band on the unit outside. Now this is a stretchy band, whereby basically it's going to represent my handle force in a golf swing. Now you could easily do this in simple terms on a cable machine indoors. So if you've got a cable machine at home, go to the gym, you can definitely represent some of these ideas. Now the reason for the video is one of my subscribers from Skillist. If you're new to golf instruction online, here is my bio, this is where I'm on Skillist. Now in simple terms, the question came from John was, hey mate, thank you for all the information. I've done a bit of research, which I actually really like it when my students do a bit of research, but I've come to this scenario where I've got some conflicting ideas in my mind, can you help me out with? Now the question was, what starts the downswing? He has seen scenarios where instructors are telling golfers to leave the handle in the air, i.e. keep the hands as high as you can for as long as you can, use the body, let the hands and arms just fall. And he's also seen some fantastic instructors, like world-class instructors, encouraging the fact that the hands and arms have to be working quicker than the body, have to be almost the opposite, right? Rather than leaving the hands up, get the arms down in front of the body. Now I think first and foremost we have to understand that both of those principles are correct relative to a different student and what they're trying to work on. But John's question was simple. You've got two instructors there, world-class instructors that we're not going to name, that are almost basically talking about different things. Now number one, these golf instructors have got very different biases, like to see the golf swing done in different components. So the question I was asked was, what do I believe, or how do I articulate the forces that are applied in a downswing in order that is representative to a baseline? Now when I say baseline, I just mean that is where we're going to start these conversations, and future videos are going to then move on to maybe what's more appropriate relative to ball flight, because let's face it, ball flight is absolutely king. But we're going to go back to the cable, and the cable is a very simple scenario to allow us to figure out how we create power in a golf swing and how we organize certain components. Now in simple terms, let's imagine the golf club is at the top of the backswing. Now this isn't a great let's say forecast of it, because the reality here is the golf club will always want to fall to the ground, and in this scenario we've got a golf club that is represented by the cable in a latch form where it will never fall to the ground. So we have to take that into account, which is why I'm going to breed on to the next piece in a moment. Now again, going back to John's question relative to the subscriber question was, do we believe that the hands have to stay up in the air and we just sort of sit and turn, or do we feel like we get the arms to get down as much as physically possible in front of the body? Now this is obviously very dependent on what impact characteristics you're trying to create. In simple terms, when you leave your hands up in the air, typically as the player sits and turns, the hands sort of reside a little more behind the player. If you're trying to accelerate the golf club, the hands and arms typically sit a little more in front of the body, allows the player to apply a little more pressure on the handle, those sorts of ideas. But if we're talking about which coach is correct, in my opinion, they're both correct. They've just done it in very different ways. For me, both characteristics absolutely have to be in play for you to really reach a baseline that is relatively neutral when we talk about swinging a golf club. Now to explain that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the top of the backswing position, and I'm going to take the initial stretch of the band here. I'm going to take the initial stretch of the band with pressure moving down, lower, forward towards the target, and a little bit more rotary in transition. Now, in that scenario, if this was a really heavy weight, which a golf club is not, but we're going to use it as a heavy weight to have this conversation, I'd want to take that pressure and load as early as I can with my body. I'm going to take the initial force, because if you imagine this being a really heavy weight, I would struggle to do it all with my body. I'd struggle all to do it with my hands and arms. I would want to absolutely take the initial force with my body. But that's only going to take me so far. I've still got my hands and arms too far to my right as a player. Typically I need to get my hands underneath my rib cage, and to do that, as I take the force, there's obviously going to be some degree of rotation. But again, my hands and arms are too far behind me at this point to be any type of successful through delivery. Now, to get the hands and arms in front of the body, obviously turn is going to help. But even in that scenario, I'm already feeling, even though I'm putting pressure down, forward and to the left and starting to turn, I'm already starting to feel an individual motional pull with my lead arm and a little bit with my trail. Now, when I've asked clients to do this, some clients are going to breed into conversations they feel like they're really pulling down the right. Now, typically when you pull down your right, the right arm becomes a little more narrow. So if you're someone that throws, it might be a right side feel. If you're typically somebody that's a little bit stronger on the lead side, you're going to start to feel that you're actually really pulling with the lead. Now, irrespective of those conversations, to take the initial stress of this band, the body is leading, the torso is turning, or the pelvis is turning, and the hands are pulling. So you've got three things that absolutely must happen. Now, those golf coaches that relative to the question have isolated one principle. It does not mean that they do not believe in the other three principles. It just means they've isolated one principle as their blueprint. So I'm going to take the initial load of the band here and start to lower. I'm going to start to turn, but then in addition to that, I'm also going to start to pull on the handle. Genuinely start to pull, because if I was to throw the band, the arc would get wider. But again, if you're somebody who gets super narrow, then you probably need to feel a widening effect on this delivery. Now, from this angle, if we do it from here, if I go to the top of the backswing position and I take the initial load of the band and then I start to accelerate the band towards the ground, that's going to be a right component because I haven't yet turned. Now, if I do all those principles while turning, all of a sudden now I'm starting to create a scenario where the golf club can work out in front of me. So there is a load, an initial shift of pressure which happens just before the top of the backswing position. Chest is going to start to lower, the pelvis is going to start to open, the lead shoulder is going to start to turn, but I've also got to feel that the golf club is accelerating towards that golf ball with turn. There is absolutely a pull on the golf club, but it's subconscious. When you start to put a band there, you do these things naturally. Now, relative to holding a golf club in your hand, if we then go up to the top of the backswing position with that force applied and that creation applied, I'm going to go up to the top. Just before I get to the top, I'm already going to start to take the load of the band, the hands and arms in my world, relative to my feel. The golf club is relatively soft at this point, but the grip pressure is something that's always so individual. So I'm going to create a video on that. But once you go up to the top, you're going to take the initial load. But again, as we start to lower, turn and open, there has to be some degree of pull down on the golf club to get the golf club in the appropriate spot to continue the golf club around the corner. So when we go up to the top of the backswing position, I'm going to take the initial load. The golf club's going to be allowing that nature of just allowing the golf club to follow the load. You see how the golf club now, it hasn't got any torque or pressure on it. The golf club's just falling. As I start to pull the handle directionally towards the golf ball, we can see the shaft wants to lay down. So again, that's another shallowing component. If you feel that just simply taking the stress of the band doesn't typically get the shaft shallowing, and you're somebody that pulls down on the right shoulder or kicks that right shoulder internal or pulls down on the handle, then the direction of the pull would need to change. So again, these are a few components that you need to be aware of. So if you go up to the top of the backswing position, you feel like you're using the ground, but you're still pulling down the handle vertically, the shaft is always going to steepen. So in that scenario, as the golf club's lowering, we've got to pull the handle outward. That gets the shaft laying down. Now, to off-center the fact that the handle is working away from us a little bit in the downswing, i.e. it's behind us at the top and starts to work out, to off-center the fact that the shaft is going to be laying down and working too far from the inside, we have to create a rotary force. So I'm going to go up to the top, I'm going to take the initial stress of the golf club with the band, I'm going to start to pull down my hands and turn. Those three components to combine to get ourselves in a really decent spot into delivery for us to work around the arc to deliver the golf club appropriately. So in my world, there are three components. The body taking the initial force of the downswing. the rotary nature of the body to kick the sweet spot out, and the off-centering movement of the handle pattern to get the shaft laying down. So if I go up to the top of the backswing position, I'm now going to take the stress of the band. From there, the shaft is just going to lower naturally. As I lower, the shaft lowers. I'm then going to encourage the hands to work out directionally. That happens for two forces. Number one, I could just turn, that gets the hands out. But if you're somebody that still gets the right arm on top, absolutely feeling like as you turn, the hands come out, body turns. Now the handle is going to work from out to in. But the club head is still going to work from in to out. So we're going to go up. We're going to take the pressure of the handle. Hands are going to come down in front of the body. I'm off centering that with turn. Everything's lined up. The hand path is now going to work in. The club works away from me. So there is no, in my world, drive solely with the hands where the club is so far from the inside that you have to feel like you wrap the golf club. Some good players have done that. Great players have done that. For me, that's going to encourage less loft, more right start lines. You're definitely going to have quite a fast rate of rotation with the hands and arms through the shot, and we have to be able to time that up, which all golf swings will need some degree of timing, whatever you're going to talk about. I find that personally very difficult. However, if you feel like you want to take loft off, going up to the top of the backswing position, taking the initial load of the shaft while pulling the hands out, and then learning to knuckle those wrists down, will be a great scenario if you're looking to create that bit more of a draw. Now, if you're looking to be a bit more passive, maybe a bit straighter to a little more of a fade, go up to the top of the backswing position, take the initial load, but start to turn at the same time. As you start to turn at the same time, the golf club is going to be less on the inside. Now from there, I've got the load, I've taken the pressure from the top, I've taken the pressure and I've turned. Now from there, I can start to work the handle a little more left and get the club face feeling a little more reactive to that scenario. So for me, there are three components. Number one, you're going to go up to the top, you're going to take the initial load of the shaft. From there, we're going to turn the body. That's my bias. We're going to turn the body. As you take that load, these things happen together. From there, we can start to use the ground, push up and turn. For me, body goes first, torso goes second, hand speed go third. But if you're in real terms, they work all in unison together. But if you're looking to learn the parameters of what starts the downswing, it's non-negotiable. The best players on the planet are starting with their lower body, starting with taking the forces first. They're starting with a bit of turn, and they are increasing the hand speed early. To increase the hand speed early, can't just be turning. I've got to really feel like the hands are working hard, the arms are working hard. So as I get down to delivery, I can let go of that golf club. I'm going to create more speed with the hands and arms early, and then let the club go at the bottom.